Hello there, all you Tauruses out there. Thank you so much for stopping by to check out your monthly video forecast. This forecast is for the month of May, and I'm breaking it down into two sections. First, we're going to look at May the 1st through the 15th, and after that, we'll check out May the 16th through the 31st. So let me just put down cards on the first section of the month for you, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so Taurians, the first thing that I'm looking at here talks to me about your environment. Now, your environment is any place where you have energy or effort invested. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that you're really enjoying your environment. You're finding that your environment is very pleasant for you during this time frame. We like that. Now, looking at your subconscious leanings, Taurians, what we have showing up here is a card that tells me that you are working subconsciously on this idea of how can you create more of the things that you want in your life? How can you manifest more? And so this is what your subconscious is focusing on, your background programs of your mind. Now, next thing that we're looking at talks to me about learning style and also communication style during this time frame. So, learning style, what do we have here? It looks to me like whatever you're learning could be very cold, very clinical, very scientific, something that doesn't have a whole lot of emotion laced in it. Or this may be something that you're learning that you just don't have a lot of emotion for. But I just feel like this information is something that just doesn't really get your fires burning here. Whatever this is that you're learning about or researching during this particular time, whatever it is you're curious about even maybe. Now, as far as your communication style, I do feel like there is a lot of listening going on for you during this time frame, Taurus. I think that you have a lot of people around you communicating with you their hopes, their expectations, their dreams, and it may be feeling a little bit overwhelming for you as you're hearing all of these people give you their feedback or give you their input. And so I think you're doing a lot of listening. You may even be isolating a little bit when that starts to feel overwhelming during this time frame. Next thing that I'm looking at is work, and it looks to me like the focus of work for this week is really to stand your ground. So for those of you who are looking for jobs, this means that the focus is to get some interviews and to perform well at those interviews. For those of you who are actually working, this just talks about making sure that you are doing the best job that you possibly can do to make sure that nobody can come up and say, you know what, maybe so-and-so would be better at this, and switch things around. So I think that you're taking really a very proactive, almost defensive stance of making sure that your job is done as well as it possibly can be, because you're basically trying to make sure your job stays your job. Okay, or if this is your company, this is you making sure that the competition doesn't stand a chance, that type of thing. Okay, now the next thing that I'm looking at does talk to me about that part of your personality which is growing or expanding right now. There's something going on that, and maybe more than one thing, where you have a decision in front of you, and whatever decision you make here is going to be a good decision. There's no way for you to pick something wrong or something bad here. These are all good options. But I think that you're a little bit confused about which way you want to go. And I think part of that is because you have to prioritize. And when you're prioritizing, whatever it is that you are prioritizing here, I don't think there's enough energy, resources, time, something for you to be able to prioritize this thing and something else. And so there's something that has to be put at least on the back burner, if not just completely dropped. And I think that's where the confusion comes in, because all of these options are good options. You're really not sure that you want to drop something. The only problem is this is a decision that has to be made, because you're not going to make progress if you try to put energy and effort and resources into all three, or, well, all three of these things. I don't know that I would have chose that word, but it's the word that Spirit put through my mouth, so I think you've got 3 options to choose from there. All right. Next thing that we have coming up does talk to me, Taurus, about something that you stand for during this time frame. So we are going to look at whatever that might be. And when we have something that you stand for, and in a lot of cases, this you're standing for it because somebody's actually asked you to explain your stance on this situation or on this person, whichever the case may be. Or somebody has actually confronted you about this and you had to take a stand. So we're going to look at what it is you're standing up for, and then we're going to look at how this other person perceives you after you have this conversation or confrontation, however that happens to pan out in your life for you, Taurians. Okay, so it looks to me like what you're standing for is happiness, joy, satisfaction, fulfillment. There is something that makes you feel really good, that brings you a lot of positive, uplifting energy. And so after somebody asks you to explain this or confronts you about this, how they feel about you is they feel that number one, they feel like you're enamored with whatever this is that's bringing you happiness. And number two, they are really admiring and maybe are even enamored with you as well. That's interesting. I've never had that card come up in that position before. Very cool. All right, so then when we're looking at more towards the end of this time frame, what we see coming up is this idea that, there's this idea of something that you're kind of afraid of. And I think that this is a deep fear. This is something that has, probably been planted in you at some point, maybe even when you were a child. And so there's something that you're afraid of that you are facing as you go through this time frame. But I think that even as you're facing it, the way the energy sits now, unless you have a change of free will, the way the energy is sitting on the table in front of me right now is that even as you're facing this energy, you're not really doing anything about it. You're letting that fear sort of paralyze you. Or if this is, for some of you, an addiction, then the addiction itself is sort of paralyzing you and keeping you from moving forward. And so as this is happening, we have some other things going on. The first thing that shows up as going on is that you're feeling very restricted and very limited right now. And there's a key to this. That restriction and that limitation, when it shows up on this particular card, this tells me that that restriction and limitation is not actual. It's not real. The restriction and limitation is simply right here. It's in our own minds that we're feeling restricted. So if you can step back and look at this situation where you have the fear or where you have the addiction, whatever is going on with you, and look at this objectively. Try to see this from your mailman's standpoint or the neighbor's standpoint. And, imagine what would they say if you could tell them about this situation. That gives you a different look at the situation from what you're going to have, and it helps you to sort of process and figure out what you want to do moving forward to get unstuck here. Okay? And I think that a lot of you are going to be doing that because my very next card does talk about moving away from a situation that was dragging you down or holding you back. So in other words, moving away from this fear, or if it's an addiction, moving away from this addiction, either way, and doing that victoriously. It looks to me like as you start to move away from this, there is a lot of drama in life that is just kind of coming at you. But the further you can move away from the fear or the addiction, or acting on the fear or acting on the addiction, I should say, the more calm, the more peaceful, the more smooth the waves of your life get. And then when we're looking at the last card of this process, what we're seeing is you're coming into a place, Taurus, where you are feeling really emotionally stable and emotionally satisfied. And not only with yourself, but you're also coming into this place where you're feeling emotionally stable and satisfied enough that you can even help and encourage some of the other people in your life with similar topics. So, you know, that's kind of the next step in learning something, is to be able to show somebody else how to navigate. And so we learn it at an even deeper level. That's where I see you, Taurus, for the first part of May. I'm going to take a little break for my voice, and I'll come back and we'll look at the second part of May. See you soon. Okay, Taurus, we're back, and this time we're looking at May the 16th through the 31st. Thank you for spending some of your valuable time here with me today. I do appreciate it. Thank you for putting thumbs ups on this video and sharing it with others that it may be beneficial to. Let's put your cards down. I do offer private readings. You can find out all about that by checking out my website in the description box below. All right, Taurus, first of all, let's look at your environment. Your environment is any place where you have energy or effort invested. Sometimes it's home, sometimes it's school, sometimes it's work. So you'll recognize it quicker than I will, probably. What I see going on here is that there's a lot of energy in your environment, and I think that your environment is really encouraging you and helping you to be very self-sufficient and really inspired to do some creative things that help you. Maybe even that you're selling some creative things. Not necessarily, but I do feel like there's a lot of creative energy in your environment, and it is, it is a situation where you are very independent and self-sufficient in this environment as well. Okay, so la da da da. For some of you, that's a work studio, by the way. I'm sure that won't be for all of you, but for some of you. Subconscious lineage. What do we have here? It looks like you really have on your mind that you want to send somebody some kind of inspiration or permission to act, or maybe not permission to act, but maybe to sort of fire up their desire to act. And that's what's on your subconscious is, how can I do that? I think you're trying to do that without being really obvious. Okay? So your subconscious is working out what's that going to look like. Now, next thing we're looking at has to do with your learning style and also your communication style during this time frame, Taurus. And I do feel like you're picking up so much new information right now. A lot of this has to do with your own curiosity. Where is your curiosity taking you? Way different from what I saw during this first time frame, where everything was kind of cold, clinical, not something you were necessarily fired up about. This is much different. This is, you're learning about things that you're really interested in here. Now, as far as communication style, I do think you're sharing a lot of your new information with other people around you. But the other thing I'm seeing here about communication style is that it is solid. It is grounded. When you say something to people, they know exactly what you mean, and they can take it to the bank. Now, next thing I'm looking at has to do with your work, Taurus, and it looks to me like at work you're dealing with somebody, or I should say you're interacting with somebody who may be a narcissist or have very strong narcissistic tendencies. This is somebody who is in charge, but at the same time they're a little out of control themselves. Like they're acting out, they're misbehaving. And so you've got somebody who's in charge. There's nobody really around to be able to tell this person, hey, you're out of line. You've really stepped over the boundary here. And so we have a situation when we're looking at work. This is a difficult situation to navigate. So really working with somebody who is in control, but who doesn't have a lot of self-control. All right, and so they may be making some decisions that have you and other people that work under this person, they may be making some decisions that have you going in directions that are not necessarily really good for the company or the business, and possibly not even safe for themselves or other people. So you want to be really, really careful about this situation. The key here with somebody with these tendencies is that they're trying to get things to work out well for them. And so if you can find a way to convince them that to do things in a safe way that might be good for the company would work out well for them, then you may get a long distance with them. The thing is, they don't really like to hear other people's opinions that much. So, good luck on that. Basically, sorry, but that's what I see coming up for work. Now, la da da da. Next thing that we're talking about does talk to me about that part of your personality, which is growing or expanding during this time frame. I think what we have going on here is that there is a lot of information that you are keeping inside yourself. And this could tie in with this work situation with this narcissist that or narcissist type person that, you know, you may not be letting other people know what it's really like at work. But it doesn't even have to be that. There is something coming up here where it just feels to you like it's better not to share every single little bit of information that you have with every single person in your environment. And so you are keeping something on the down low right here. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm looking at is that you stand for, and then how the person who confronted you about what you stand for feels after that confrontation or after that explanation. So there is somebody in your sphere of influence, Taurus, who you're standing for, and this is somebody who really has a lot of love. I'm hearing has a lot of love for the world. And I don't mean like that this person is just a big flirt or that they have 20 zillion girlfriends or boyfriends. For most of you, this is going to be a male that we're talking about here. But this is somebody who they just have a big heart. You know, they would give the shirt off their back for somebody if they thought that it was really going to help them. And so this is the person that I see you actually standing up for. Now, how somebody else feels after you've stood up for this person to somebody else, they feel like really uninspired. And it feels to me like they're looking at you and comparing how you feel to this other person to how you feel about them. And they're feeling like the other person you have a much higher opinion of the other person than them. And so they're feeling a little dejected, possibly even rejected just by the idea that you can see this other person's big heart. I don't know what kind of heart this person is that has talked to you about this, what kind of heart they have. All I can tell you is that this comes across to me as something of an insecure type feeling of, you know, well, how can I compare with that? Okay. Now, next thing that we're looking at is the lesson or experience during this time frame. Very similar to what I was looking at the last time frame. This is talking about that there's a change that you know you really kind of need to make in your life, that this change would make things a lot better if you could do it. And you can do it. I think it's a process that it would take time. The problem is I don't see you making this change, and I don't see you making this change because you're afraid. I think you know where it would benefit you for sure, but I think there are also other places that making this change would benefit you that you really don't know how it would impact those other areas of your life. And because you don't know how it would impact those areas of your life, you're letting those unknowns kind of get to you and hold you back. So we've got this energy of this change you know you need to make, and yet you're resisting it. So obviously you have free will. You can change anything on this table. So if you notice that energy coming in, that resistant energy towards the change you know you should make, then I would advise that you try to find some way to embrace this change, because when this type of thing comes in, generally what happens is not only is it good for you in the area of life you're expecting it to be good for you, but it's also good in all the other areas too. So it's just a matter of you're not able to see that from where you are right now. Anyway, either way, the way the energy is sitting right now is that you're just resisting making that change. Now, at the same time that we have this experience going on, there are some other things happening too. And it looks like there's something to do with a family celebration or a celebration in your tribe, which to me, tribe is that family that we choose rather than that family that is blood. there's some type of get-together or celebration for the family that is being put on hold, okay? So as you're refusing to make some kind of change, at the same time, I think that this is being impacted. You know, your attitude about it is being impacted by the idea that whatever this get-together or celebration is being put on hold. And then at the end of the month, where we see you is coming into a situation where I think somebody is paying you back for something that you've done for them. And I really feel like this is kind of a karmic type of payback. So it could be about money that you loaned out previously, but this could also be about energy and effort that you expended for somebody. Now they're expending it for you, type of thing. This could even be something where maybe if you didn't create such good karma, maybe if you created a little bit more negative karma, you could be receiving that. Although I feel like that is just the tiny minority of people who are watching this video, maybe 2%. I think most of the people who follow me try to create good karma, just because like draws like. So I think for a lot of you, you're getting some type of karmic payback that is really positive because of some seed, good seed that you have sown before out into the universe. So really like to see that as an ending. That's always cool. And thank you guys very much for being here. Thanks for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you to those of you who join me for live readings and do the super chats. And of course, thank you to those of you who schedule private readings with me on private Reiki sessions. It is because of you guys' support for me on every single level that I'm able to do what I love to do for my living. So thank you once again. Everybody have a fantastic month. And if I don't see you here for a private between now and then, I'll see you back on the next video. Peace out.